Hey guys, I wanted to tell you about Kubla Cubed. It is a powerful piece of software that I found for doing takeoffs, especially if you've got any sort of print on a job that you're getting yourself into. You can do takeoffs, you can do volume calculations, you can do all sorts of stuff with this software. And I'm going to be totally honest with you, for the price point, you cannot beat it, and it is very simple, relatively speaking, to all of the other takeoff software options out there. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's called Kubla Cubed, and you can click the link below to grab it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's Down and Dirty. We're going to talk about how to top a pile for your hoe hand to get up there and have a nice platform to work off of. As you can see, I've started this just a little bit earlier. I apologize. I didn't think about doing it Down and Dirty until I had already kind of started. But essentially all I did, and I'll demonstrate here in a second, but just so I'm not shooting to the moon on a super steep pile, is I went up there and backbladed some material down just to build myself a little bit of a ramp. I don't need much. This machine needs a little bit more of a ramp because the grousers are a little worn down. We don't have quite the grip that we would if we had some newer tracks. So all we're gonna do is create a little ramp, and then what we're gonna start doing is just knocking down the top of the pile, and we'll angle our blade off to the right for the most part on this one, because our trench is to the left. We don't want a bunch of spoils rolling back down into the trench. We really want to move this material off to the right to build our platform. So here we go. We're going to go up here, and I'll demonstrate what I was doing originally. I'm just coming up here, and I'm grabbing a little bit of this material. I'm going to pull it back. And then right about here, I'm going to let that material go, because what I'm doing is I'm building myself a little platform that's going to kind of boost me up a little bit so that I'm not so steep. So now that we're up on the pile, I'm going to angle my blade all the way off, and I'm actually going to stab my left-hand side of the blade down just a little bit more than the right. You can't really see it. This is actually level. So I'm stabbed all the way down, and now we're just going to start getting into that pile. And what that's going to do is it's going to push that material under my right-hand track. So let me back up so you can see it. You can see that that's starting to push that material under that track. Now we're going to go back up and we're going to stab a little deeper. Again, shuffling that material to the outside. And I'm going to do this as aggressively as I can until I lose traction or I start to run out of material. And this is going to take a little experience because I can't really see my blade, so it just takes time in a dozer to kind of get a feel for where you're at material-wise. You can see we're still shoving that material off to the right side. Come back here, we'll lower our grade just a hair. Now I'm going to get a little more level on my blade so that now I've got a good idea of how much material is rolling underneath my track. And we're going to keep shoving this material to the right. This is real sticky clay with a bunch of chunks, so this cuts a little harder than if this were nice loose material. You can see all that material is going off to the right there. Now this is where you do want to be careful. As you can see, back up so you can see, my track's starting to run out of material. You don't want to get yourself too far out there to where your dozer starts to pitch over. That's a way you can get yourself into some trouble. So I'm going to stab down with my left hand tip again. We're angled off to the right. We're just going to keep working this pile across. You can see I'm building myself a raceway for my right track as we go. About taking your time, working the pile. Always be aware when you're up here what you're doing when you back up. You don't want to back off your pile when you got steep slopes like this. You can see when I got chunks like this, I'm actually lifting the left side of my blade up to kind of roll those off to the right. got ourselves about halfway down the pile now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop back and we're going to actually start to really level this off and make ourselves a nice pad to work off of. So I'm going to take all this material on the right and we're just going to shuffle it over, I'm sorry, to the left, and we're going to shuffle it over to the right. Now you're going to notice, the reason we're doing this, let me specify. Rick's going to jump up here in the excavator here in a little bit and start bailing back into that trench because we're actually filling it back in lifts. So it's okay if I get him a little closer to the hole. But if I were to angle my blade off to the left right now, we would have stuff just rolling into the pile. As you're going to notice here, as I push along, even though my blade's angled to the right, because we're cutting our grade down, we're still going to get some material rolling off to the left. The left side is naturally going to build itself out. We don't need to worry so much about that. Our concern is getting this material shuffled off to the right so that we don't get too much material rolling towards our trench there. So now that I'm pretty well centered, I'm going to start just working on building myself a ramp out here. And a lot of this is using my to feel what my machine's doing. Because remember, we got wide tracks. It's okay if we're sitting on some stuff. But when the machine starts to pitch, that's when you know you're starting to run out of material and you need to back up and you need to take another pass. And I'm talking subtle pitch. I'm not talking the machine really starts to lay over. If you're getting that far into it, you've gone too far. Cut down a little bit more, shuffling that material off to the right. You're going to notice I'm being pretty aggressive on my blade height. This is not a finished pass, obviously, and so my goal is move as much material without the track spinning. And so what I'm doing, sorry, Rick needed my attention. So what I'm doing is I'm moving just enough material to where I'm not spinning the tracks, but I'm getting the maximum bite. And so you're going to have a lot more aggressive blade handling when we're doing some pushes like this. If it's a finished pass, obviously we're a lot smoother on the blade. So now we've got our nice wide pad out here. We're going to drop back. This is good for the dozer, but look at how wide that excavator is. Now we need to widen it out a little bit. We got a little room here that we can go off to the left, but I'm really not going to focus on the left because again, look at all that material spilling off to the left because I'm making a new pass here. I'm still angling to the right, but we're naturally widening on the left. But you can see if I angled my blade off to the left, we'd be putting a bunch of dirt in that trench. Now what I'm focused on is just keeping myself level because my left-hand track is on uncompacted material with the machine starting to lean a little bit. So I'm compensating for that with my blade. Now look at all that material I got on the right that I can push off to make myself a nice wide pad. This is what's really enjoyable in a dozer because it's rolling material off to the side, so you can really be aggressive on your pushes. And look at that. Just like that, we have a nice pad for Rick to get up here and sit on to bail dirt into the hole. Obviously from here, I'm going to do a couple cleanup passes and just make it look a little nicer, make it a little more level. But this is essentially, for what we're doing today, this is it. Now, if this were a dirt stockpile, if it wasn't something that we were immediately going to put back in the hole, From here, what I would do is I would start to angle my blade off to the right, and I would start to cut about a 45-degree slope, about a 2-to-1 is what I would start to cut off to the right-hand side. And we would start to roll that material, and then instead of being totally flat on top, instead what I would do is put a little bit of a crown into it. And that way, if this were, you know, a spoils pile that was gonna go back in later down the road, or a topsoil store pile, your material's not gonna get saturated in the rain. Because you've got it mounded nice with a nice crown on the top, all of that rainwater is gonna sheet off, and your core is going to stay dry. It's only the surface that's gonna get a little wet. So that's all I've got for today. As always, I hope this helps. We'll catch you on the next Down and Dirty, guys.